What's up everyone, it's a Knife Saw here, and today I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Chris Reeve knives drop point blade shape and the Insingo blade shape. So this is a question that is asked a whole bunch in like the Chris Reeve knife community, and I remember when I first decided that I wanted to save up for a Sabenza, I did that, and then I was like, all right, which size do I get? Which blade shape do I get? Do I get an inlay? Do I not? I was really confused with all these kinds of things. So hopefully this video will help you out and decide what blade shape will be best for you. And so if you are wondering what the difference between the 21 and the 31 is, I actually did a video on that, and if you want to check it out, it is linked in that top right corner. But the knives I have, both these are large Sabenzas. This is the 21 with an Insingo blade and black micarta inlays, and this is a 31, the plain Jane variant with a drop point blade. So just looking at these blades, like how they actually look, how aesthetically appealing they are, in my opinion, I think that the drop point looks better. It just looks a little bit like more of a normal knife blade shape. The Insingo personally just kind of looks like a bird's beak. I do really like this part on here, this little top swedge that has a satin finish on it. I think that really, like, the combination between that and then the polished stonewash finish of the blade, I think that it looks really good, but just the overall shape of the blade, I kind of like the drop point just a little bit more. It's just more normal, I guess, but you know, the look of the blade shape is entirely your opinion, so I can't really tell you what to think about that. But on to how these knives perform, and at least for me, for EDC purposes, the Insingo blade shape is better, and let me tell you why. So a lot of times, the majority of things that I do is cut cardboard, or I would say the majority of things that, like probably the most thing I do is cut cardboard, and that's the most difficult things that I really put my knives through, because if I'm doing a hard to use test, I will either grab a fixed blade or I will grab just like a complete beater knife like this Benchmade Griptilian or just something along those lines. So cardboard is basically the most thing that I cut. So let's say I'm cutting down on a piece of cardboard. This Insingo blade is just very nice, because one downside of a drop point blade is that if you're just cutting straight down, you're probably just going to use this flat. And so the belly starts, I would say it starts right about here, I guess, in this area. And so you are left with only this amount of blade length from my thumb all the way to the end right there. And so that's not as much blade length as if something that you have right here. And now blade length is not one of those things that is really going to make that much of a difference. But if you are just cutting through a bunch and maybe your knife just isn't as sharp, a little bit of blade length can help, because maybe your knife is not sharp enough or in good enough condition to do just a straight up push cut. You can take it and just kind of go as fast as you can, and maybe that little bit of extra blade will help you finish that cut off and not make you go back and do it again. Another reason why the Insingo blade is a little bit more functional for me is because this sweeping belly here is just really nice, and I think that when you're cutting materials, just if you're moving from tip to heel on your cut, it really helps because the material kind of catches that belly and it really just cuts it a lot easier than if you're just using somewhat of just like the flat here. Not that the flat is bad, but just that little bit of extra material that it comes up against, and especially if that material is sharp, which obviously it's a blade, so it will help cut it easier, and I think that works very well. Also, this tip is very low on this knife while still being very, I guess there's no really other way of describing it than pointy, and it's a very sharp tip and just very usable and very good at penetrating because of that top swedge there. And so the tip is low and is very accessible, so when you're doing a lot of cuts like that, it is just very easy to use, while if you're doing something like that on a drop point blade, I have to kind of cock my wrist up like that and then go on from there. So basically, for EDC tasks, I think that the Insingo blade is just the better overall option in general, and so I'll probably get the Insingo blade on more of my larges from now on, but also especially if you're getting a small Sabenza 21 or 31 on something that you're going to be using for just you know, very simple things, because it's a pretty small knife, I would suggest the Insingo if you really care about how it performs. But now where the drop point is better in. So a lot of times, or with these Sabenzas, these obviously are not designed in the kitchen, and I don't really use my pocket knives at all in the kitchen. You know, a lot of people cut up apples for their kids. I obviously don't have any kids, and I don't really cut up any apples because I just eat them without them being cut up. I don't know why I'm talking about apples so much, but the Sabenza definitely isn't made for food prep, because as you can see here, put that end on there, and basically you don't have that little bit of cutting area, but with the drop point blade, you have that little bit of belly there so that you can, do like that. And so let's say you're cutting on a cutting board or whatever, you can use that little bit of belly in the tip and kind of cut through the object and then drag through the bottom of it. Let's say you're cutting a tomato, you can cut as much as you can cut with this part, and then that little bit of belly there will help finish off that cut in the end, while the Insingo blade it still works fine. It's just maybe not as good as the drop point for kitchen use, but they're both going to be very fine. Personally, that's not an issue with me. Now, if you are hunting, let's say you are skinning a deer that you just shot or whatever, the drop point blade probably is going to be better because that access to the belly is really good for cuts like that, and that's one reason why I really do like a drop point blade. Now, obviously, I'm not a hunter, and if I was going hunting, I'd probably grab a fixed blade, and I bet I could say the same for a lot of you people out there, but maybe, you use your folding knife when you go hunting, because everyone, I guess, does what they want. But for the next one, is there anything to talk about more in use? So I went over kitchen work, just basic EDC stuff, and hunting. Well, how about this? One way that a drop point blade shape can be very good in EDC purposes is using that belly a lot more than using just more of a flat edge like this. Now, this is not a straight Warncliffe, so this gradual belly does help it out on the Insingo. But for this one, let's say I'm cutting something and I'm gonna cut it like this. I'm basically going to put my knife in, cut it, and then move on to the flat. The drop point blade works very well. So what I'll do is I'll set the material probably around in this area, push like this, and then that belly, it's a pretty big belly, so it'll catch that material, and then I'll move on to the flat and finish my cut. And I think that is really where a drop point excels. Now, I do a lot more cuts where the Insingos has more of an advantage than when a drop point has more of an advantage, but that is just I guess the benefits and disadvantages of the Insingo compared to the drop point. And I've just realized I kind of messed up over my words there, because I just realized how many times I've already said belly in this video. So I'm sorry, because I know a lot of people just don't like the word belly. But for the next part, which I think is an important factor, at least for people like me, is for sharpening. And I'm a freehand sharpener, if you don't know, so that is basically where I'm talking from this perspective, and the Insingo blade is a lot easier for me to sharpen. I actually just sharpened it today, and the only problem I had with it, if it is a problem, it probably won't even be for you, but just a little bit for me. For some reason, I was not hitting that back bevel, the very base of the edge towards here, and so the scratch pattern is still a scratch pattern from the factory on there, and not my kind of angled scratch pattern that I got off my 600 grit stone. But basically, what's so easy about the Insingo blade is that it is just very there is no gradual belly like there is on here, because with the drop point blade, what you'll have to do is when you sharpen it, you'll have to take it and then kind of move your hand up, or it's really your elbow, but just for showing you guys here, you'll have to move the knife up basically in order to actually hit that belly of the knife. And so with the Insingo, there isn't really much of that at all, and so you pretty much don't have to do just maybe a little slight movement up there to get this whole end of the knife here. But overall, this is a very good knife to sharpen, and I just want to point out that Chris Reeve knives are some of the best knives, in my opinion, to sharpen. The only thing going against them is that you're always scared to, mess them up, because they're a very nice knife. But one reason why they're so good is just, I feel like when Chris designed this knife, he was really just thinking like a sharpener, because I feel like there are some knives that come out, and I feel like the people who designed them have no clue or have never really even sharpened a knife in their life. And I don't want to be rude about it, but sometimes the choil is all messed up, the plunge grind is just horrible, and then you can't sharpen it without bumping the knife into your stone constantly. Just one of those things where I really do appreciate a knife like this with a whole lot of room for you to work, and it's a hollow grind, so the more you sharpen it, it's not going to thicken up very bad. And also, both these knives have very symmetrical grinds, and so that also really helps. And it's just one of those things where I feel like they really thought about every single thing when making this knife, and so I just want to appreciate how good these knives are and how pretty much easy they are to sharpen, unless you are really worried about messing them up, which I guess I am. That's always in my head when I am sharpening them. So that is going to do it for the video. For my final conclusions, the one I would suggest to you, if you are like me and the most thing you do with your knives is EDC tasks, I would go with the Insingo. My favorite blade shape is the Insingo. Now that's not saying the drop point is bad, and if you have a drop point blade shape right now and you're watching this video, don't feel like you made the wrong purchase at all. And so both blade shapes are good, but for me, I would go with the Insingo. And there aren't any Insingo 31s out right now, but I was looking on the Chris Reeve Instagram page and someone commented, will there be any Insingos and Tontos, I believe they said, for 31s anytime soon? And Tim Reeve replied and said that there will be soon. And so that is hopeful. I hope that they get out soon because I really do like a Insingo blade shape. You know, maybe I'll get a small 31 Insingo. If Blade HQ does that exclusive again, I might have to get one with those carbon fiber inlays, or maybe a knife art exclusive with just the whole carbon fiber scale. So that's going to do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. If you agree that the Insingo is your favorite, please leave that in the comment section below. If you're a drop point guy, please leave that too. If you're the odd man out and you like Tontos, which I don't blame you, I just haven't really got one yet, please let me know down below. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.